Hello and welcome to Lazada Insider, featuring knowledge that makes a difference. We share trusted insights, forward-looking perspectives, and exclusive expert interviews to keep you ahead of the curve.
Hi everyone, I'm Chen, your host today. A recent study reported 84% of consumers were convinced to buy a product or service based on the brand's video. And two-thirds of consumers say they would prefer to watch a short video to learn about a product or service. So how can business harness short-form video content to grow their business? And what are some of the key trends we need to pay attention to? Today, we are very excited to be joined by our expert guest, Roshan, to deep dive into this topic. Roshan leads the Redseer business in Southeast Asia with more than 15 years of experience in investments advisory and consulting services. Hi, Roshan. Welcome and thank you for joining us back today.
Good morning, Chen. Thank you and Lazada for inviting me to this session. Very pleased to be back again on Lazada Insider series.
Thank you. Before we start the whole questions, let's define short form more clearly. What is the length of the content we are talking about today?
Right. Great question, Chen. So I tried to look up for one, and looks like there's no standard definition. Now, if we go by Google Ads definition, long form video is what they define, and that is something which is more than 10 minutes or longer. So short form is essentially something which is less than 10 minutes. However, if we look at what's available out there, in reality, most short form videos are 1 minute or less in duration. So for practical purposes, short form is essentially around 60 minutes or so.
Sure. So how popular has short form content becomes in Southeast Asia compared to other digital services? And I wanted to understand why. What are the reasons behind it?
Great question, Chen. So, short form has been popular for some time, but interestingly, what we noticed is the level of awareness and use has increased meaningfully in the last 18 months or so. And when we look at the percentage increase in duration of use, short form grew by almost 25% year on year in 2020. Now, this was the highest increase we noticed across all digital infotainment services that we have tracked in Southeast. Now, interestingly, on average, the users spent about 1.5 hours on short form video in 2020. And this was a kind of meaningful increase last year. Now, other digital services like listening to music, watching, reading news have also seen double-digit kind of growth. However, it's interesting to see that short form has actually gained share from most of these infotainment services. If I were to compare the trends in long form videos, for example, TV series and movies grew by about mid-single to low double-digit levels in 2020. But essentially, if we then compare with the short form formats, clearly the long form format is giving away time share to the short form format. So those are very interesting trends, and essentially highlights that the short form format continues to become more popular. To your second question, what's driving the popularity of these short form video formats is essentially the duration of those videos, and that essentially allows the viewer to complete one or more video sessions sooner than what would have been possible in the alternative, which is the long form format. We have noticed that the average time spent per session of a short form video is about 25 minutes, and that's roughly about half the time spent for a long form video format. So that sort of hopefully addresses your second query.
Sure. So in your research, do you see any differences among generations, age groups, or countries in Southeast Asia?
Right. So clearly, there's a pattern emerging, and I would say this is not unique to Southeast. I would say this is a pattern we've seen in other geographies as well. So typically, the age group who have been most attracted to short form videos are in the high teens to mid 30s of age. And of course, there are people in higher age cohorts and a few in the lower age groups. But essentially, the format has been fairly more successful in the high teens and mid 30s till the mid 30s age group. Now, if you look at the distribution within Southeast, very interesting trends. Now, most Southeast Asia countries are heavy consumers of video, with almost 80% plus of mobile internet users consuming video. So these are very high numbers compared to any other, I would say, global sort of country if you look for benchmarks. Now, if we look at the absolute figures, then Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia stand out in terms of the time they spent on not only mobile internet but also on video, because a significant time, a percent of time they spent on mobile internet is dedicated to video. So that's the added bit around how the usage patterns look like across countries in Southeast.
Sure, I think that is very interesting. Next, so if we draw some comparisons between short form versus long form video, what are the key advantages and disadvantages of the short form video?
Right. So both formats have their strengths and weaknesses. So our suggestions to various content creators as well as brands and advertisers has been to opt for the format which is based or most aligned with their intended goals and target audience. Now, to do some bit of context setting, now there are three sort of dimensions that we can dissect short form and long form video formats. Now, of course, this is a simplistic sort of breakdown. Now, the three dimensions we're talking about are the profile of content creators, the ease of content creation, and the target audience group. When it comes to short form format, the content creators in many cases are upcoming artists who may or may not have an existing base of followers. So to make it easier for them to sort of onboard and start generating content, most of these short form video format apps, they have embedded filters, tracks, and auto editing features, which makes it relatively easy for these artists to sort of start generating content fairly quickly. Now, if you look at the profile of audience these artists or content creators are able to attract, these are typically young people, the age group as we discussed earlier, and mostly in tier 2 and below locations. Again, this is kind of a loose way of looking at the user profile. And then by design, what we've seen is the short form format has been more suitable for easy sharing and consumption, and in many cases that leads to 50% completion rates. So that's basically how the utility of short form comes in from creation to consumption by users. Now, if you look at the long form format, for example, it works well when the personalities are known and they already have a strong base of followers. Now, given the longer duration of content that goes in this type of video formats, the quality of content tends to be better. And to ensure that, basically a few things need to be done in the background, which is essentially editing and then filtering the videos to ensure that they meet the quality benchmarks. So that's around the supply side of long form video. Now, when we look at the target profile of consumer or followers who sort of are attracted to the long form videos, now this has, I would say, broadly speaking, a mix of all age groups and is spread across various income profiles. However, if you look at it closely, there is a definite skew towards digitally slightly more mature users and slightly more premium customers. Now, so keeping these factors in mind, one needs to be sort of cognizant of what the intended product or use case is, and then who are the target audience. And just as an example, if I were to say, let's say the idea here is to use one of the video formats for e-commerce, for example. I know it works well for categories like apparel, beauty, personal care, and F&B. However, when we're looking at other categories, let's say like electronics and appliances, the short form video format is yet to prove itself successful in a big way. So that sort of hopefully gives you a context of the balance one needs to strike while taking a call between short form or long form.
Sure, I think that is very insightful. So, other than the three dimensions you mentioned, so when we look at the short form video, there are also two important aspects to it. So, there is a content as well as a platform. Let's discuss the content first. So, what type of contents work better in short form?
Right. So broadly, one can divide the content into two types. One is entertainment focused content, and the other is more sort of information type, which could be related to news, sports, cooking, and specific product categories, perhaps. Now, if we recall the short form video followers, now the younger age group that it caters to, and that too in mostly tier two and below locations, entertainment works very well. So we have seen that entertainment centric content has been able to attract a lot more followers, and it has been able to beat information centric content by a huge margin. So if a platform is looking at rapid scale up of follower base, then clearly the content needs to be skewed towards entertainment. Now, having said that, there is no, I would say, no platform would want to just focus on one type of the content or other. Typically, it's a mix of entertainment and information. And over a period of time, we think that the platforms will try to work towards a balance between entertainment and information. So that's basically our read of the trends as we have seen so far.
Sure. After listening to you, I'm very eager to know, in your opinions, what are some of the factors driving the success of short form video and some of the challenges?
Right. Interesting question. We did some studies on this, and again, the first one, there's no surprise here. The big pull for the success of short form video was the duration of content itself. So the 60 seconds and below duration has been a big attraction for a lot of followers to be part of this video format. Second was the push which was coming from social media and people being aware of the short form video. And then a third big driver was recommendation from friends and family. Outside this, we have seen a few other reasons. Again, these are long tail of reasons like the opportunity for budding artists or content creators to show their talent, and that sort of has helped the supply side of the equation. And the format itself has also been able to uh, customize or been able to be better aligned with local conditions or local flavors, and that sort of has connected well with the followers. So those are the reasons how or why short form video format has been able to work really well.
Sure. Last but not least, let's move on to the platform. So, in the markets, there are many platforms designed for short form content, like TikTok, example. How should businesses decide when it comes to platform choices for short form video distributions?
Right. So on the parameters of to look at, basically how do you choose a platform. Essentially, one big thing to look out is the profile of content creators and their followers. So if you have good quality content creators with sizable number of them having lots of followers, then possibly that's something to be conscious of, something that a advertiser brand would want to sort of be aligned with. The second is the type of content. Now that can vary by platforms, but a advertiser brand again has to take a call whether that's the quality or type of content that the brand would be happy or okay to be associated with. And third is the app specific features, like the appeal of the user interface, the robustness of the app, and those would be the three big variables when one needs to look at while deciding the different short form video formats. Now, each of these can be looked at more closely to understand the nuances around content creators, the followers, their demographic profiles, and the alignment of product or service offerings with the specific groups who are on these platforms. So that would be our take in terms of how one needs to prioritize different platforms as per the use case. I
Sure.
think in the earlier question, I'm not sure, perhaps there was a sub question around some of the challenges seen on this short form video. Uh, and what we've noticed is in tier one locations, number of advertisements has been a irritating factor for the consumers, while in tier two location, the quality of streaming has possibly been one of the bigger issues. Now, this was followed by issues like data and privacy concerns and a few other factors. So, those are some of the issues or aspects to be mindful of when one looks at the short form video platforms. Now, the only caveat here is this finding is a few months old, and our view is possibly some of these would already have been addressed to some degree, and then possibly they are less of an issue at this point of time.
Sure. Thanks for the insight. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you very much, Roshan, for the great sharing with us.
Great speaking to you, Chen, and thank you again to the Lazada team for this opportunity.
This is Lazada Insider. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you click follow and subscribe so you don't miss our latest insights and expert interviews. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time, take care.